Marshall in the middle.
So yeah, we're here, you and I, and so I just started the recording. I see you just tipping your beer. I got me a drink. I'm here with CW3 Christopher Hoaglin. When did we first meet, you and I? I remember you being a stud, like maybe in the ICC or something. What
Uh,
remind me of that?
so I was a 14 Juliet when I started out, so it was probably a 5.52 over playing in the TCS.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, that was my first unit ever. Private Hoaglin. Yeah,
Oh wow. Wow. So you were in HHB 55 Deuce?
that was.
Wow. Okay. So that was I was a brand new first sergeant. I was wet,
Yep.
boy. I didn't even have a diamond to weigh me down yet.
No, no, you were. That was the first sergeant gig you had. You were my third first sergeant I ever had in the Army. So you said you were wet. I don't even think I was coming out of the womb yet at that point.
Oh my gosh, that's great, right? So what were your aspirations as a young soldier? What was it that you were thinking about doing? Were you like, I'm doing my time and I'm getting out, or I'm a careerist? Where was your head back then?
So at the beginning, when I first joined up, before even playing Army, I was like, you know what, I'm doing 4 years. I thought I signed to be an air traffic controller, and I was going to work in a tower as a civilian. Um, Now I joined, I got into the extra unit, and I met Chief Batista, Eduardo Batista. He was the 140 Alpha there. Awesome dude. So after seeing him and working at the TCS with him, I'm like, you know what? I want to be a warrant officer one day. I want to be a 140 Alpha. And so that was my long term goal. Now, so my short term goals are like go air assault, go airborne, do all the fun, cool schools, which air assault is a lot more fun as a PFC than jump school was at a CW2. You have to realize that you should probably do those things as a younger person and not wait until you get old. But yeah, that was my long term goal is to make just become a warrant officer, become a 140 Alpha, and be like Chief Batista.
Wow. Where are you from in the world? Like what part of the country?
Hastings, Michigan. So about 6 hours away from where I'm at right now at Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Oh, I love it. I love it. What's it like to be from Hastings, Michigan?
It's a great place to leave.
It's a bunch of economic boom town going around there, huh?
Yeah, they got there, it's Michigan, so snow if you like that kind of stuff, which I don't. It's a very blue collar factory job kind of location. So I watched my parents do that and notice that you're gonna work enough to get back to work and you're not really surviving, you're just making do.
Right.
Uh, So that was never an option for me. I saw him struggle my whole life. I said, I got to do better.
So the army was part of doing better. You thought that was a ticket out.
Yeah. So I would say probably as a freshman, I knew I was going to join the Army. I didn't expect to join as quickly out of high school. I may have got my girlfriend, which is currently still my wife, pregnant as a senior. So I never actually received my diploma across stage. They had to fax it to the recruiter so I could be at basic training while I was walking across stage.
So you had so you and your girlfriend had a extra visitor, and that caused you to bump things up a little bit.
Yeah. So always wanted to join. I thought about taking a year off in between. Instead, joined up as soon as I could. We got married 2 weeks before I joined. And then CJ, Chris Jr., was born while I was in AIT.
Yay! Oh, that's a blessing, right? That's a
Oh, yeah.
blessing. Oh wow, it's so cool. So tell me about young Chris, like when you were 6 and 7 and 12, and I don't know. Tell me some stories from the young time. Did you grow up in a neighborhood? You ride bikes, a street light kind of thing? Did you have a fort in the woods? Did you build tree houses? Did you fall out and break your leg?
Okay. Well, like I said, Michigan didn't have a lot of money. And so there was three older brothers, three younger sisters, myself, mom and dad, and a trailer. So spent a lot of time in the summer cutting down trees and splitting wood because we were so smart that we decided to put a wood stove inside of a trailer. I'm surprised it didn't burn down. But we did that. So that was my thing for, I guess, being active. But I also played football growing up. Uh, the wife and I also both wrestled on the same wrestling team during middle school, and then did a little boxing to stay in shape in between the two sports. But the big thing growing up was, just find a job. So I became a roofer. Horrible job. Learned I didn't want to do that for my entire life. Uh, at that point, I was weighing about 85 pounds, and a bundle of shingles 80. So taking those up some ladders, you learn real quick that that's probably not a good career choice for you. Uh, yeah, other than that, it was video games, watching MMA. When it first came out, when it had weight classes, that was pretty cool. Um, but yeah, it was school, then right into the military. I didn't do a whole lot. Didn't explore the world. Didn't travel. Didn't really do anything. First airplane ride I ever took was go to basic training. So yeah, it was definitely a different culture when I joined the army. So where I'm from is just a small little hick town. Not everybody had the best views in life or beliefs, and so the culture alone was a blessing to have because it really opens your eyes compared to what you've been told versus what reality is. So that was really awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting getting culturized into the army, into basic training and stuff, right? Tell me
Mm-hmm.
about that step. Did you make that transition easy? Did you have a good time in basic at
Uh,
AIT?
well, I almost quit during basic before it even started. So I had a little bit of an attitude. So it was like day -3. I was the first group to go into basic training out of like the three different groups. And by day 2, I pretty much told the drill sergeant to go F himself. I'm not doing what you tell me anymore. And this is stupid. And then he told me to turn around. And I turned around. I'm like, I'm stupid. Why did I turn around? I told him I ain't going to listen anymore. So I turned back around. I said, I ain't doing that. So um, that was drill sergeant mine. Now, drill sergeant Peacock was the senior drill sergeant or the lead drill sergeant for my platoon. And he was a little smarter, a little more old school. And he pulled me in the office there that day, and he did the smart thing. He didn't yell. He didn't have to. He pretty much just broke it down to me and said, "Hey, looking at your GT score, uh, what you're saying right now, I'm not believing. You're not an idiot, and you're making up a story," which I kind of was. I was telling him, "No, I was told I'm not going to do this. I'm going to work 9 to 5." Well, he pretty much said that if I chose to get out of the army, he would assist me as much as he could. He would try to make sure that the money that was required for METs and the flight and the uniforms and everything else, that I would make sure I pay that back. Well, man, that's not good. I got a kid on the way. I'm trying not to do that kind of stuff. So that time he said either that or you get out of my office and just go back to training. So going back training. So that was the right choice to make at that time. But I definitely had a chip in my shoulder. I didn't like getting up to 5 in the morning and making beds and getting yelled at all day. And just a lot of rules and structure that wasn't necessarily what I had before.
Okay, so you got to tell the story. Okay, you got to tell the story. You got to tell it like you're standing on stage doing a stand-up comedy. Here's Private Chris Hoaglin in basic being, and you tell me the story. Tell me that way. Okay, How was it? How did it happen?
Like I said, it was like the third day. And this is 3 days of me waking up at 5:30 in the morning and getting yelled at. Big drill sergeant, round brown up in your face. And I'm looking around like, what are we doing? Constantly marching. And don't wrong, they said some funny stuff. That was the funniest place you can't laugh. Um, so I don't do well with that. So I'm sitting there and we're finally getting yelled at some more. It's getting evening time, and they're like, you know what? You know what priors like before they go to bed? A nice coat of sweat. Get out. So we're all doing push-ups and flutter kicks, front back goes, JoJo the Duck, you name it. And I just had enough. I'm like, this ain't me. So I just stood there. and then drill sergeant mine came by, and of course, big dude, brown right in your face, yelling at you. And I'm like, nope, I ain't doing it. Caught him off guard a little bit too. His eyes got big. I think he wanted to punch me, to be honest. But there's rules. There's rules at that point. So he's yelling at me, turn around, yelling at everybody else. Told me to turn around, so I'm looking at the wall. Just stare at the wall. I'm like, oh well, just told this big old dude. I ain't doing what you're saying. So I turn around again, get a little chip in my shoulder, turn around again. Staring at him, mean mugging him. Like, I hope he don't hit me. If he hit me, I probably would die. But I'm holding my ground. So he lays into me some more, and I pretend like I don't care. Just blank face. Just really hope he don't hit me. Again, I'm 132 pounds at this point. I've grown up a little bit. I'm real big. So Drill Sergeant Peacock hears all this from the office, his drill sergeant office. And of course, he yells at me to get in there. I jack it up. You're supposed to go report, knock on the door, go to attention, go pray to rest, say your spiel. No, I don't know any of this. I'm day -3. Close the door. The biggest infantryman you ever saw that you found out didn't even want to be a drill sergeant because we're at war with Iraq, and all he wants to do is go back to his platoon and kill people. Sits there and tells me how he's going to do his best to make me Mr. Hoaglin again with a big old hefty fee, and all I can do at that point sweat bullets. Like I can't afford that. But you still try to look strong, you don't want to give up. But in the end, you got to eat your pride, turn back around, and get that coat of sweat that all the privates want before they go to bed.
It just makes me so laugh thinking about you looking at that drill sergeant like you don't care, knowing you got a baby on the way. It's like, I'm gonna be defiant, and you're like, hold on just a second, I need to put up with this for a little while.
It was a miserable experience, and honestly, it wasn't hard basic training wise. It was for me the rules and the early wake up. They don't care. Spraying outside, that's fine. You're gonna lay out in the grass. You can do some PT. And I was good. I was in shape. I could run 2 miles in about 12 and a half minutes. It wasn't an issue. I just didn't want to. And it's one of those things where it becomes from a want to what's needed, what's necessary. So you deal with it.
Yeah, yeah. So tell me about becoming a father. Did that change you?
At this point, well, at that point, I was just an AIT. So I guess when CJ came around, it was more of a reality shock, and one of those things where my dad was never there. I had a stepdad eventually, but my real dad was never there, and I was like, I'm not going to do that to my son. Probably not the best career choice if you're going to be home for your son all the time. But when we are home, we're home. But you know how it is. You're never home for too long. You visit home and live abroad. So still providing, still there, just wasn't there physically at all times.
Right, right. What was it like between what you thought about the Army and your job that you were gonna take? Like, did you choose 14 Juliet?
I did. I did pick it. But like I said, they give you a piece of paper at MEPS, and it has this big, long command control, computers, information system technology, yada, yada, yada. It was like 2 sentences long. And C4I and a bunch of other stuff. I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
So I talked to the recruiter. He's like, yeah, you're an air traffic controller. You're going to be telling aircraft where to fly and, get good pay when you get out. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. No, we're actually trying to shoot down aircraft that we don't want in our airspace, and we're not really taught the ones that are flying. So completely 100% the opposite of what I thought I was going to do.
Well,
Yeah,
It was right. It was right. He was just looking at it from a different angle, just a little bit
yeah, yeah. He was looking at a 1 alpha. That's what he's looking at.
different. So, as you as you became a part of the army, and you joined the army, and you got to the units and stuff, how did it go? What was it like? What was the new life like?
So I would honestly say, even to this day, that 552 is by far my best unit I've ever been at. Um, so I couldn't ask for a better unit to come to, and I say that because the people that were there, especially my S3 shop, left a lasting impression on me, and I still talk to Jordan to this day. From Sergeant First Class Griego, who eventually made Master Sergeant and everything else, I still talk to him today. He's living in Colorado. Patrick Poor, bless his heart, bless his soul. That was one of the hardest working dudes you ever met, and it's funny because he was a heavier dude because of diabetes. And if you didn't know him, you'd be like, "Wow, this guy's he's a joke." Right? First appearance. You work with that dude, he's the hardest worker. He'd stay up for 24 to 48 hours out in the field. He would always be there for you. Most down to earth person I ever met. He's still to this day one of my military heroes. I would do anything for him, his family. Um, and we all know how that story goes, so I'm going to leave that one alone. Um, Sergeant Marcel, Sergeant Theriot, which both became warrant officers, Chief Batista, Sergeant Major Harris, yourself. First, we had at the time First Sergeant Hockenberry, First Sergeant Purdue. We had just a ton of good people, Jones, and like you name it. Like all their names and their faces, I still remember them, and we were busy. It wasn't like now. So we'd go out to the field every 3 months for about 28, 29 days, and we'd do our job. And it'd be out in the McGregor in the desert, wherever. Didn't matter if it was summertime, really hot. People don't realize this. Really cold in the wintertime there. Like it's one extreme to the other. But the unit was extremely proficient. It was very good at its job. And I kind of thought that was the normal, the standard for the Army. And, everybody, when you're young, you don't know any better. You hear from other people like, this ain't the real Army. Air defense isn't it. That, you got to go to another unit to see what it's really like. And I have. I've been to 82nd. I've been to, like, all over the place. 17 Fires Brigade, 18 Fires Brigade, 5th Corps right now. 552 had their shit together. They really did. And I was fortunate to fall in that spot with those people.
Amen. Amen. Yeah, right. Uh, what was it like to come into a unit where people around you had been to war recently and had casualties, and people were doing real world missions, going to Washington D.C. area in that unit during that time? Do you remember thinking through those kinds of things?
Yeah, yeah. And of course, as a young uh, soldier, I felt like I missed out and I wasn't a part of the team, and I needed to go do these things in order to really understand what everyone else is doing. So I even volunteered to go to Korea with you. When you moved down over there as a rotation unit, the 3 shop wouldn't let me go, and I thought that was the close I'd get right away to go into Iraq, Afghanistan, everything else. But yeah, you look around, it wasn't even about the patch. It was just about the stories, the knowledge, and everyone around me just had so much information. I'm like, well, I'm just gonna stick by you and suck up what I can off from you. You teach what you can, but it's still not the same as being in the mix and actually, it sucks, but misery loves company, and that's how you really make your bonds.
One of the things that's interesting is like wartime versus peacetime, practice versus for real, right? And when you
Oh
played
yeah.
football, you could practice all the time. But if you didn't get into the game, you really felt like you missed out. It's like, well, golly, why did I do all this practice? In the Army, we practice, and then all of a sudden we find ourselves in a war, and we didn't realize we were in it until we were in it, almost sometimes. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, we all hate war. but you, as a warrior, and you know, dream of it in order to do your job. Have you been a part of a firing sequence where you've been a part of that chain of event that pulled the trigger on something?
Not directly. I've never had to pull the trigger on anything. Now, receiving or feeding data links and air picture to people that are putting rounds on target, that's a reality, and it's becoming more and more of a reality. So, Link 16's our bread and butter, especially in Patriot world. We're like the only people in the Army for 30, 40 years that were using Link 16 up until recently. So yeah, we worked with the Air Force, worked with the Navy, worked with the Marines to share that information. But now it's becoming much more prevalent in the Army as well, where now FA bubbles are getting in on it. You have the Apaches are now getting on it, and everybody talks about how it's so new, it's cutting edge, and really it's out. It's so old that they're actually trying to build a new tactical data link that'll carry more messages and a higher throughput because now we got so many people wanting to play. So
Right.
essentially, what was old fashioned for us is new fancy for everybody else, and it is really sharing information for anything from network enabled weapons to just howitzers on target to C-130s to A-10s to Apaches to whatever it needs to be. We can all share that information simultaneously and get to the point where you can actually pinpoint targets. It's coming a long way. And don't get me wrong, I've been on several field artillery units while being downrange before they had this kind of information. And they still liked the air picture. They still wanted to do clearance of airspace, but it wasn't something that was as sought after as it is now because you always had old school with a big sky, little bullet until they start to see some of the videos how small the sky gets sometimes with these big bullets.
Yeah, right. Oof.
Yeah.
What do you think what have you learned as being part of the new integration of the artillery and the air defense? Uh
All right. So I got two sides of that coin. So pretty much ever since I left 552, I've been in an Adams cell from brigade all the way up to corps, and in between a little bit of doing some like 69th ADA brigade or 108th ADA brigade over at SETCOM. So I've had a lot of time with FA and ADA. And so what I've noticed is that for our ADA branch, we don't do a good job of matching position ranks to other units or other branches. So we've always had this concept we'll have one lower than, say, the FA guys. So here at Corps, they have a full bird, and then they have two light colonels. And normally we'll put a major in as the ADA OIC, and hopefully he gets promoted or she gets promoted to lieutenant colonel. And when they do, it's the time to go to battalion command, like Lieutenant Colonel Merrill. He's leaving right now to go to battalion command. So you get that glimpse of someone that's equal to a deputy, but not as equal as the OIC, which can be very troublesome if you really want to stand your ground and want to make sure that things are happening in a certain direction. Because eventually, the Army's the Army. Someone outranks you, you're going to do what they say, especially if it's a raider or a senior raider. They're going to do what they say because as a senior NCO or as an officer, you need to get promoted, especially as an officer. As a senior NCO, you can burn some bridges. But no one wants to stay a Sonford class forever. So eventually you have to play the game. And that's the one thing I can say I wish that we would do better as a whole is to match the other branches' highest rank with our highest rank. Now, what I can say is that there's a lot of knowledge being shared. There really is. So Colonel Anders was my FA colonel here. He just retired after 34 years of service. And I would honestly say he was the best FA colonel I ever worked with, around or for. And he did not play the air defense versus field artillery. He didn't play games like that. He wanted one team, one understanding, one fight, and what can he do to make things better. He did not understand air defense artillery very well, but he let Lieutenant Colonel Merrill run his shop, run his people, run how he was supposed to, because he had to understand that the knowledge base just wasn't there to be expected because even though I've been in a lot of units with FA, I don't understand their job like they do. They have subject matter experts. They've done this for, like him, 34 years. He's forgot more than I'll ever learn in FA. So there's definitely been a love hate depending on personalities, and that's just could be the nature of the beast.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Tell me about your son. How old is he? He's got to be close to 20 now, I guess, or
No, he's 18.
18.
Yeah, 18. He's a senior. He's gonna hopefully have his driver's license in about 3 months because in Kentucky you have to have 6 months of permit time. And he's been working at old Freddy's Burgers. It's actually founded by a military member after World War II or one, two. So frozen custard and burgers. I never ate there until I got a job, and now it's one of the stops I like to go to all the time. But
All right.
yeah, he's good. He's doing well. He just needs to make sure that he has a goal and chases it. So keep talking to him about he has options and try to figure out exactly which option he wants to take to move forward, whether it's college, trade school, whatever the case may be. We did already open him up a business. He has his own LLC for 3D printing. So that way he can at least do something besides just Freddy's and help him do a little entrepreneurship like we've learned how to do. And I wish someone would talk to us at a much younger age about even just having a business license to essentially reduce costs on your taxes if you do it correctly, because it takes a while to make a good earning off of it. And the highest tax bracket is going to be your youngest single males. So if you do something to help offset some of that, awesome.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. You're right. Well, good. It's good to it's good to hear that, and it's good to see success breed more success. One of the reasons we're doing this, having this interview, is to make memories for future generations, right? Hopefully, one of these days, we don't get that call that says, Chris Hoaglin's sick, but it could very well happen, right? It's happened.
Oh, yeah.
All of this started because First Sergeant Robert Maggot, got sick. He got a brain
Mm-hmm.
tumor, and I said, we got to get these memories and these people, these heroes that I know. We got to talk to them and get their story down, and so that's kind of what we're doing. And we'll take it and put it on a thumb drive, and give you a coin, send you a coin with a serial
Right.
number on a box. Yeah, that way, it's something that maybe your grandkids could want to fight over one day. Be like, I want the coin, right? And that's an interesting thing. Um, what do you think your life's gonna look like in 10 years? You're still going to be you're still going to be doing what you're doing. You're moving into private industry. What does 10 years from now look like for Chris?
Well, hopefully 10 years looks really good. So right now I've already started my TAP and my transition, my medical appointments. So I got 19 more months of service. Of course, I could do more, but been away from the family a lot between the 4 deployments and a couple of, I don't even know what to call them, going over to Germany for Operation Deterrence, whatever. So it's been a lot of time away. And then I didn't realize becoming a warrant officer how much travel you have to do. And school is one thing that's sure that's long, but I didn't realize how much time was gonna be away as a warrant officer just because you have knowledge that they're looking for. So I'm coming close to the end, and so over the next 10 years, the big game plan is we're gonna move back towards Fort Hood area, Coppers Cove, Texas. I'm looking to try and put up a couple pole barns so I can run my business full time, as well as that the wife right now she works for the TAP on base. So Transition Assistance Program, which used to be SVAL TAP, they separated. Apparently they broke up. So she's gonna continue to do that until she gets tired of it, and hopefully the business is big enough. And honestly, in 10 years, I don't want a huge business that has hundreds of employees. I'm looking to try and run something that's lean and mean with maybe 6 to 8 employees, and really just get into more of the woodworking, more of the laser engraving, and eventually move into plasma cutter and a wet jet for the metal work. And that'll be the shop portion. And I'm also noticing when I was at Copper's Cove, they don't have anywhere that sells wholesale lumber of anything besides Lowe's or Lowe's or Home Depot. So I'm going to have another shop that's in front of it that's going to have all the species of woods that we like to use as well, be able to sell it to the local community. So we have it on hand, as well as we'll be able to make a little offering on top of it for people to not drive an hour and a half away each direction like I did when I was there. And honestly, that's it. I don't want any huge dreams. I'm not trying to become the next Elon Musk. I want something that I get to work with my hands. I get to have a finished product that's tangible. I can see it and have a sense of accomplishment. And honestly, be able to push it back to Fort Hood or anywhere else. Right now, we're already doing worldwide, but mainly Fort Hood. So that way, troops get a good farewell plaque or gift or Thor hammer, whatever the case may be, at a reasonable price.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's obvious you enjoy what you're doing. What is it that you most enjoy, you think?
So as you get more senior, as you know, in the Army, there's less doing small arms, weapon optics. There's less of the hula hula stuff. It's an email game. It's emails, slides, Excel, PowerPoint, memos. Yes, it's all useful. It's all need to be done. But after a while, I actually made a game of it. I was like, all right, today I sent out 103 emails. Let's see how many emails I get back by the end of the day, all right? And it's not really a sense of accomplishment when you're doing those types of things. Now, when you're fixing equipment or training soldiers or NCOs, that's where I get my sense of accomplishment, which I still get to do, but it's not as much. So the more and more you get ranked, the less and less you get to do, and you're more of the planner. So at this point, when I get back home from work and after the gym, I get to come in the shop and I get to build something, and you get to physically see it, and then when you finally get to present somebody and the reaction of how happy they are about it. That's really what it's about for me. I like to see people happy. Like I tell my old lady, I will lose money on a project to ensure that's what it's supposed to be, rather than giving them what's on hand. Because machines mess up, things happen, and so we still make money. We'll say 98% of the time on projects. But there's that one or two that gets a little thing that's not supposed to be there, and I'd rather redo it so that way that happiness I get to see on the customer's face makes it worth it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So brag on your beautiful wife. You haven't said much about her. Tell me about that.
Well, she's a superstar. Tell you that much. So, like I said, she was pregnant in 12th grade, stuck with me for 18 some years of service. Even became the FRG leader once for 552 for Cap Cervantes. She was not a big fan. I was a PFC. We didn't know anything about the Army. Uh, but that's what kind of person she is. She's going to help out and get in where she can. So she does everything for the kids. She does a lot for me. She runs, so anything that's ordered at this place for a laser engraving, she does all the laser engraving. So on top of that, when I was sent over to Germany for the 6 months, she ran the household, the husband, the wife, the chores. She ran the laser engraver. She took over all the orders for the CNC, so she was doing the woodworking. And I even asked her, like, that's too much. And she goes, "We're not shutting down the shop." Meanwhile, she's still running the job as well on top of it. She's like, "No, we're not shutting down the shop." I'm like, "It's okay." She's like, "Nope, we're not doing that." So she is definitely 100% the reason why this house is successful, whether it's for kids, crazy animals, which rockets in your room, uh, to run the business, like everyone in between. So she holds it down.
What's the name of your business?
So technically, we have two names. We go off from one now. It's Hoaglin WWE, which sounds like wrestling, but it's woodworking and engraving. Uh, so right now we're holding off on getting another website until we get out, and then yeah. we'll have our website up and running when we get out. We we have to be realistic about the situation. Um, I don't know if I'll stay home for the next 19 months because I didn't expect to leave the last time for 6 months. Told on a Tuesday and left on a Saturday. So until we know for sure I'm home, we're going to hold off on getting the website up and running. Right now, everything's through my Facebook, which is okay. And then we have a business page, Facebook, which is Hoaglin WWE. But I'm trying not to make sure that Tiffany and myself don't get overwhelmed without us being able to do it full time, working evenings and weekends. It's good, but not ideal.
Amen. Amen. What what was it like getting deployed and going different places? Did you find it be something you were proud to have done, or was it something that you know you wish you'd have done more of, or something that you dread? Tell me about deployments for you.
I think everyone's first deployment has the mix of exciting because again you've been in for a while and everybody's talking about it, everybody's done it and you haven't. And then of course there's always that first time you go, there's that fear because you don't understand, you don't know, really not sure what to expect. And so the first one was Iraq for 12 months, and it was it was Iraq. I mean, they made sure it said IDF Thursday. It was like you knew you were gonna get hit, you just didn't know where and when. But Thursday was pretty consistent. So it was definitely a very good learning experience, especially for me because I was still staff sergeant that time. Just dropped his packet, and I didn't feel like it'd be the right thing to do to drop a warrant packet without ever going before we went warrant. I didn't think it was a good thing for me to become an NCO without going. I wanted to make sure I had that real world experience before I had to like lead soldiers and tell them exactly how to take care of themselves, what to expect, what to do. But I can't do that because I wasn't there. So after the first one, it wasn't nearly as scary. I wouldn't say it was something like I can't wait to go again, but it did at that time did help financially. Young staff sergeant, two kids living in Washington State. It's very expensive. So going actually helped us out a lot, even though I'm sure the wife would have rather had me home. But then I went to Afghanistan. So we don't make a ton of money when you got 6 years in. I don't care what rank you are. You just ain't making a lot of money. Um, so it was good to have the tax-free, this family separation, the hazardous duty, the imminent danger pay. So that part was very beneficial. Afghanistan, they didn't hit us as much as Iraq. It wasn't nearly as combative where I was at. I was in the south. And then you kind of look forward to them, but you really don't. For me, I have mixed emotions. I want to make sure that I can provide for the family. And in the Army, there's not a whole lot of ways to get extra money. You can't work overtime. That's not going to help you. So your overtime essentially is the deployment. So that way you can get that tax free and you can get everything you need. And when tax season does come, you have a better return so that we can keep pushing forward with the family. Um, the combat itself, it wasn't. I didn't think I was going to die on a day to day. I wasn't scared to go over there. It wasn't like honestly, the living conditions are worse when you go to the field 99% of the time than they are when you go to a deployment. Uh, I didn't have to shave in the mirror of a Humvee very often, but it's still one of those things that there's a possibility, a chance. You do IDF happens, and you never know if it's going to hit you. It could, it may not. You're away from your family, so you have those struggles, and then anniversaries happen, birthdays happen, Christmas happen, all these things are happening, and honestly, your timeline is just paused. The world is moving forward, but for you, time has stopped. And when you get back, everyone's moving forward, and you're still just trying to catch up. And so there's that part too. And it sounds silly, but it's anything from your vehicle to the music that's being played on the radio to what's on TV because you probably didn't watch much while you're over there. Everything's changed, and you're like, I don't even know where my cups are at right now, so I gotta check all my covers to find out where my cups are at. So it it was a good thing. It was a blessing after it's all said and done. But it's definitely hard when you're over there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. Did take a moment and think about or tell me about maybe tough times. Have you lost a friend? Has there been a memorial service you had to go to? Is there a time of loss? Was there a time of struggle?
We in any second there was some that passed while we were there in Afghanistan, and so I wasn't like super close friends with the guy. I did know him. We did go to a couple training events together, and so I actually was in the Adam BAE and I had to schedule his hero flight because no one else knew how to do it. And so when I was writing down his name, it kind of became reality because it wasn't the first hero flight, but it was a hero flight with someone I knew. And so then when they finally came to us and we did the ramp ceremony after that, I said, I'm never doing another ramp ceremony again. I just, no, I'll schedule hero flights. I do what I have to. And it's probably not healthy, but you compartmentalize that you move on, you focus on this task right here. And then you focus on this task right here and you just block everything out because in the end, other people still counting on you to do the job. They don't care about your emotions right now until the job's done. If you want to talk to them after hours, so be it. But right now we're working. So
You gotta put that face on. You gotta do your duty. And
yeah.
many times you say you wouldn't do it again, but if you were called, you'd probably step up and give the honors to your brother or sister, just like you're supposed to. What? Tell me a little bit about spirituality. They say there's no atheist in foxholes. Is there something that keeps you going on the long nights and deployments and tough things? When you gotta keep going. Is there some? Many people even talk. The spirit of my grandma. Keeps me going. Is there something in your life that keeps you going?
Well, I wouldn't say it's religion. I do believe in a higher power. I don't know what to call it, to be honest. It'd be kind of narrow minded. I think that's the only things out here. But usually it would be the family would be what I thought about, especially on those long nights. Sometimes it's just your buddy to the left and right of you that you're trying to cut up with to make sure neither one of you are falling asleep, and two that both of you are at least not miserable. And that honestly, the military will teach you the art of bullshitting because you will have time where you don't have anything but the people around you, and if you don't know how to talk to people, you're gonna be bored and miserable. So that is really be I'd say the people around me, and then my family. That'd be the two things that I thought about. It wasn't so much "Oh help me God" or anything like that, because you can ask all you want, but I think sometimes it's just better to lay on the ground, hope it don't hit you. If it hits you, well, game over.
Amen. Amen. Tell me about, you already talked about Chief Batista. Tell me about mentors. Who was it that you felt like took you under their wing and helped you?
All right, so there's gonna be some strange ones here, and Ray Heinrichs. I don't remember that young guy's name. So he was at 552 as a specialist. Um, he was probably the most senior specialist in the Army. He refused to get promoted because he wanted to work on cars and he didn't want the NCO responsibility and take away from his side hustle. I mean, he worked on everybody's car. He's worked on a chaplain's. I don't even know. I can't remember. It was sexy Chevelle or something. It was beautiful, but he did, and it wasn't the art of shamming. He did teach me a lot about the Army itself and how to talk to people, how to essentially make yourself a tool for everyone else's success to make you valuable. And if you're value added, there's a inherent likeness about you, and then people enjoy you and be around you. So I enjoyed that about him. Griego, because he was a hard NCO. He was not a pleasant person to be around, but he wasn't pleasant for anyone. So even the captains and everyone else. I remember him throwing a trash can because the captain didn't take the trash out the day before. And he threw it and said, "These guys, these soldiers are not here to provide for you. You're going to take out your own trash like a grown man." So I respected that because he was evenly mean to everyone. But if you had a problem, he'd be evilly mean for someone against you that you had a problem with. So you could work with him, you could trust him, he'd take care of you, but he demanded a lot. Like I said, Sergeant Poor, he's definitely my hero for the rest of my life. Chief Batista, I talked about him, but there's another 140 Alpha out there named, there's really two. One's Jimbo Kurth and one's Rich Bailey. So Rich Bailey is the one that recommended me for 140 Alpha. And he still is. Church going, doesn't swear, uh, uh, doggone it, is a hot rod. Like, he was very professional. And I don't speak professional very often, but so for him to see more than just my mannerisms of how I do swear and talk frank and be a sir, he saw that I was good at doing the job and good as an NCO, and he saw a lot of good in me, and he's the one that allowed me to go down the path that I always wanted to go down. And even to this day, he's retired in Texas. We still talk. He's still kicking and doing after serving 30 years, and still keeps in contact, even though he has no obligation to. He's done with the game. So just an awesome, awesome person, beautiful family. And then Jimbo Kurth was my warrant officer basic course instructor. Not gonna lie, I hated warrant officer basic course. I felt like the knowledge that we're learning wasn't tough enough because you have to teach a certain curriculum, and I expect as us being warrant officers that we should be really deep dive and maybe even take a shelter completely apart and put it back together. Like, we're gonna be experts. I would say it was like if you didn't have the knowledge, you better ask the people in the room because they have to follow the curriculum. That's just kind of how the Army works for certain things. But Jimbo would take a group of us off to the side and try to make sure if we had anything we want to learn, he'd deep dive it. He'd change a little bit of the curriculum without telling anyone. Just always trying to make everybody smarter and better. And he was just one of those guys. If he read it, it didn't matter if he saw the equipment or anything else. He would just know how to do it, and then he would share that information. He retired. We still keep in contact. He's doing some jujitsu stuff now. He's been trying to do politics, like everything else. He's got a motor that just never stops. Those are my big ones.
That's great. That's great. Were you always good at PT, or is that something you struggled with?
No, that was pretty simple. Like I said, between doing sports growing up and then my activity in the summer splitting wood, um, yeah, it was something that was very easy for me to do. So I didn't have a struggle there. I think my biggest struggle that I learned is that when I was getting ready for WLC is that I always worry I don't have enough information, and so I worry myself because I want to make sure I have more and more and more. Or studying for the board. Reciting creeds verbatim until you're good at it is not an easy thing to do. And I'm pretty sure the wife could just say the NCO creed before I could because she had to read it and watch me read it and then correct me when I said it wrong. And so, yeah, that was more of my difficulty in the Army was I'd have to just repetition until there's a certain point where it just clicks. And then things become easier over time, whether it's your job. You see the same information several times. You go to several NCS schools. Okay, now you're seeing a lot of the same stuff, just a little more elevated. The physical stuff, that's always been easy, though.
Are you the typical warrant officer that was like, where's Hoaglin? And we've seen that. We ever seen that warrant officer we got in the unit?
I would say for up till about my 18-year mark, that was not me. So honestly, about 18 and some change, that's when we got back from Germany. Now I am taking me time. So between the TAP classes, I've never been to sick call. I didn't even know how to schedule a medical appointment. And I'm now learning that I've kind of screwed myself in the long run by never going to get seen by a doctor. I'm not screwed yet because I still have 19 months. But growing up, you don't go to sick call. You better be dying if you go to sick call. Otherwise, you just keep showing up. To me, you're a shitbag. And we had them around us left and right. And even as a young E4, you fuck with them. But, you're garbage, man. That's the third time you went to sick call this week. What do? Send you back to work. So you're just wasting everybody else's time, you know. And so it's a bad stigma. And it's even funny because even as I got older, I'd tell my soldiers, hey, you're sick, go to sick call. But I still wouldn't do it. So lately, it's been a lot of medical appointments. I'm just getting checked from my feet to my head and everywhere in between. So that way, if there is anything wrong, which I'm finding out there are things wrong that I didn't know were. It's just normal for me. It's been that way forever. And then my tap classes, but I would honestly say I was not that guy for forever. And I think that's a good thing to a certain point, but at a certain point, you have to do what's right to make sure when you transition out that you have everything in line because it's going to affect you and more so your family in the long run.
Tell me about a team that you've been a part of that you're proud of. You know, was there a particular unit or a squad or a crew or a group of people that you guys, you know, did something unique?
We did do something unique, and then we moved away from it. So after Korea, I went to Alpha Third J Lens, right? Big old blip in the sky. I got there, and they sent me to North Carolina for training to learn how to fly it, and then I had to do the maintenance portion, which is another course. So I got back. I wasn't even on the teams out there to fly it yet, and they lost it. It flew away. They're on their eval time to see if they get certified. So it busted its tether. It flew from Maryland into Pennsylvania, and cops shot it down. It crashed, and like it was crashed anyways. Cops just want to shoot the guns. Um, so at that point, we're all kind of in this limbo land there at Alpha Third. Like, well, what are we doing? So I called my branch manager, who happened to be Rich Bailey, the guy that recommended for warm, and say, hey, am I moving? I just got here like 3 months ago. Am I moving again? He goes, well, if the program dies, you'll have a year before you have to move. I was like, okay, well, that's not too bad. And so I ended up getting a phone call. Well, I got a phone call from my commander on lunch on like a Wednesday. Came on in. He's like, hey, you want to deploy a 108? I said, well, hold on. Let me call my branch manager and see what's going on. I called up Rich again. He didn't even tell me anything. He's like, I'll call you back. Hung up on me. Well, long story short, there's a warrant there that was kind of not telling the full truth and what was going to happen. And Rich told them, well, if you let that person move from your unit, I'm not backfilling you. And so Rich told me, do not take that rotation. So I came to my commander and said, well, found all this stuff out. I'm going to say no. I'm sorry. I'm moving soon. Because at this point, it's been about 6 months. So next day, I come back to work at lunch. Calls me in the office. Said, you're going to go. You're going to Qatar. You got 2 weeks. I'm like, all right. He goes, and then you have to go to Fort Bragg to SRP for this next week because Ebony Proving Grounds don't have an SRP site. I got 2 weeks of notice, 1 week there at North Carolina, SRPing. I finally go over. I go 108. I'm not even part of the unit. I know nobody. I've been out of air defense for probably 10 years at this point, but Adam JEs and everything else. Honestly, that was my best unit that I made the most connections in, and I didn't even want to go because I thought I was going to screw something up for my move. And I haven't been in Patriot since 552 at this point. So you come into a Patriot brigade in a combat environment with extreme lack of knowledge of how Patriot works anymore. But looking back, that's probably the best place to learn. And I did. I learned a ton. And Kevin Weary, Lieutenant Colonel type now, was Major. The best S3 I ever had. Hopefully no one's listening too hard because he ran circles around the XO. Made him successful. We'll say it that way. Great guy, great personality, make you laugh even when you had to work. Say you had to work 23 hours a day, you wouldn't mind because it was with him. And all the captains that were there, Captain Parker, Captain Riley, or Captain Campbell, Riley, all the captains, Monteith, they're all studs because of him. He'd work you hard, he'd train you, he'd make sure you were smart. And it's funny how many times I see these people round and round. Captain Parker was just with me at this unit here at Fifth Corps, and we already had a great relationship. Still a stud. He's over there at ILE becoming a full grown major. And everyone that was in that S3 shop under Lieutenant Colonel Weary all made it to major, and they all got residence ILE because he demanded a lot, he gave a lot, and he trained it. He worked with it, and that was the closest knit community that I had, especially being so far removed from Patriot for so long. David Madison, he was a 140 Echo at the time. He told me what to read. He said I'm going to be part of stands after a certain point, so I did stands team with him. Wealth information. That was honestly the most unexpected surprise in my military career. Of don't go, you're going, bye, and then fall into a team as good as it was. So 108, that was awesome.
What was it like going to jump school? You said you went to jump school as a CW2. Tell me about that.
All right. Well, I'll give you kind of the backstory a little bit before that. So I went to walks. I graduated, and I was going to Bragg. I'm like, cool. I've never been to Bragg. So I show up to 3rd BCT. All right. And so they bring me in the S1 office, goes, you're a NAP. I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Right? I'm like, okay, I'm a NAP. Like, kind of joking, right? And they're like, you're a non-airborne personnel. I'm like, oh, yeah, guess I'm a NAP. They go, well, you're going to go home today. I don't even know if we can cover this unit. I'm like, what? My orders say right. No, it didn't matter. So I went home. Got a call later, and they said, hold on, just give it a couple of days. I'm like, well, kind of free time off. That's weird. So 2 or 3 days go by, and they send me to 18 Fires Brigade, which I just left 17 Fires Brigade, and they already had a 140 Alpha, and we're a 1-for-1. There is no twos. So I'm sitting in that unit. I went to division. I'm like, look, I can't be in another unit with another 140 Alpha starting out. I need to make my name. He goes, well, you want to go to 1 ABCT or 1 BCT? Their 140 Alpha is leaving. I said, okay. He goes, but you're going to deploy. I said, okay. He goes, but you have to go airborne school as soon as you get back. I said, that's fine. All right. So I go through the deployment, right? And if you know, you've been 82nd, if you don't got jump wings, you're going to get some crap. So I didn't make it any better once I got enough crap and I was talking enough crap back. I grew the biggest mustache I could because 82nd loved mustaches. And there was one time, like, my mustache comes in orange too. It doesn't even come in brown. It comes in like a Lorax orange. So there's a major working the plans. He was funny. Like, even though I didn't like the comments, it was still funny. Like, I could walk out like, that's funny. Like, I wish you would have said it to me, but that was funny. But I walked in one day and my mustache, like, so it didn't grow down, it grew out. It grew straight out. And he caught me walking into this plan's office and he goes, God damn, that dick room walked into this office before you did. Look at that thing. Like, oh man, that's funny, right? That was really funny. I'm like, I didn't know what to say. You got me. So I get through the deployment. I come back. I finally get a slot for jump school. Not gonna lie, as a CW2, I was really upset. No one told me I was gonna run after lunch. I ate a good old lunch that first day. I didn't know. So like jumpers hit it. We're running. Oh God, airborne. And like I'm still in shape. But I'm just so full. I didn't expect to run after lunch. I'm glad I didn't have no milk. So yeah, I went through it, and it was kind of fun. Cause like the Black Hats, they all knew me. Not personally, but they got to know me by the time it's all said and done. Because I at this point, I'm a little more seasoned. I'm not as scared. I'm not hiding. I'm like, they tell me to do certain things. I bullshit with them. Of course, they made me a chalk leader for jump week, which is cool. That was fun. It was just, as you get older, you realize, like, all right, I get it. It's part of the game. I don't really need the part of the game. Just teach me how to do this without all the nonsense around it. It was still fun, to an extent. Again, you're older. Some of the fun's not as funny as it used to be. So that was fine. Went through it, did my 5 jumps. And the funny thing is, when I came back to the unit, the same guy I talked to about my dick broom coming through the door before I did, he got promoted, or he got moved into the S3 position. And he acted like we were best friends. Like he never said anything mean to me. We were all cool. Everybody's cool with me as soon as I had my wings. Like we're all good. We deployed together. We got wings, and so the unit was fine. Uh, but yeah, they do not like you if you don't have wings. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are around it. You just don't have them. That's you. Yeah.
It's true. There's a rite of passage about going through it, right? And it's not that hard, but it is still a rite of passage, right? Jumping out of an airplane. It's something like you saw people in your class on the 34-foot tower. They would get up there and they would be like, "Nope, I ain't doing it."
Yep.
Right? And it's like, okay, there's a certain percentage of people that just ain't gonna do it.
So you're right, and they quit. They give up. They refuse to show up. Whatever the case may be. We had people just up and leave and go back to their home station. But it wasn't that hard. It's just you start to get older. And you're like, I get you. This part is just BS right here. I want to do it, but I'm not happy. Like as a PFC going through aerosol, I didn't care how stupid it was. I was excited. I was just excited. I'm there. I'm doing it. As you get older, I'm like, all right.
What was the first uniform that you had? Did you come in when we had BDUs or was it AC?
Oh yeah. No, I had BDUs, and I'd sit there. I was broke as shit, so I got the stay flow out and I had a towel on the floor, press my own uniforms, get the cardboard out, put them in the pockets, and press those too so it looked good. Shot up my boots, and then when that was actually kind of funny you bring that up because Tiffany's stepdad Tim, he served in the Army. He didn't retire or anything, but he served in the Army, and he came to the house in El Paso. I lived on base in the historical housing. As I was ironing my uniform, he looked at me, and I didn't know this. He goes, "You're a lifer. You're staying in." I said, "No, I'm just doing 4 years. Like I'm gonna." But he knew, and so that was one of the things that it did show the pride and who tried and who just paid the $12 or whatever. Who didn't shine their boots, and don't get me wrong, by like midday Monday they're screwed up anyways. But you at least have them looking good in the morning.
Yeah, it's neat to think back in those days and those times. We've come a long way. They say that the old army is different than the new army and all that kind of stuff. And look, I saw some transitions and things happen when I was in the army. But I really believe that the soldier in today's army, just like yesterday's army, is a very capable, willing, great teammate, right?
Mm-hmm. I would agree. And I think what we feel as now as a new army isn't that the soldiers aren't capable or willing. We had whether we wanted to or not, we had the opportunity. Like I said, we'd go out to the field, and we'd go to the real field. We wouldn't go to a motor pool parking lot. We wouldn't go to the EST 2000. When we went to train, we trained, and we trained for a long period of time to do your job. And honestly, as an NCO and as a warrant officer, I feel like the more time that you give your soldiers for training, it doesn't have to be anything tough. Even just teaching them how to run an ANSI, how to build an ANSI, how to strip one down, build one up, how to connect radios and do League 16 over the mids. You'd be surprised how excited they get. It's when they're stuck in an office and like, well, we'll find something for you to do eventually, and if not, well, just sit here and hang out with us. And okay, yeah, I need you to go over here and ask supply about this one item today, and that was your job today. Like, what? What? This is what I joined the army for? I thought we were going to work.
I'll never forget being excited about being able to look at my, I guess you called it the SHTU, being able to look at the SHTU and see a aircraft on the screen and look at the sky and point at the same aircraft, right? And that was a big deal because it didn't happen very often.
Yeah, and so like I don't know, it's one of those things that I wouldn't say we had a ton of money when we were coming up. At least when I was coming up, it wasn't like the army was flooded with money. We still had old tents and things that are all beat up, and it didn't matter. You didn't go. I feel like the Army has more money now, and we just spend it so fast. Whether it's we have to have the new air beams, like we gotta have that Tesla just blow up. Like those things are heavy, by the way. To we got to have this new piece of equipment. We have to have this, and we get all the new stuff. We just don't have any money for the fuel. We don't have money for all the food. We don't have cooks anymore most of the time. So now you have to figure out how to get food from the DFAC when we don't have our MKTs like we used to, and it's not the same. It's just we spend so much money everywhere but the training. I mean,
Right.
even while we're in Germany, just for the last 6 months, we spent 28 million on food on the dining facility.
Wow.
Yeah, 6 months. Like shit, you could have gave everybody, you know, just give them 5-6 grand. They could have ate the whole time, and you wouldn't have to worry about anybody coming through. But anyways, the Army don't work like that. But
Right, man.
I feel like the amount of training that we did growing up versus what we do now, and how we do it now versus how we did it growing up, is a big factor why a lot of soldiers don't want to stay in anymore. Not saying that I enjoyed going to roaming sands. I didn't. I enjoyed leaving roaming sands. Um, but by the time you got all said and done, you knew what was going on with the equipment. You knew what was going on with the people. You knew what you had to go fix. You knew how to work your stuff. And we just don't have that in our timeline anymore. There is no white space. We didn't have much white space growing up when I was there at 552. We had some. I haven't seen a payday activity 5-6 years now, maybe longer. And that was one of the big things. Like we played hard because we worked hard, and we did have some fun activities. I remember we went to the stadium one time over there. Was that what's that fire? What was that baseball team? The Diablos or
Yeah, Diablos. Yeah,
Diablos? Yeah,
I remember that. Remember
yeah. We had big old sumo suits, and you could challenge each other, and they had all sorts of events and hang out. I mean, we we did things as and at the time it was called mandatory fun. When you actually showed up, it was actually fun. Now mandatory fun is like we all go to this building and someone's going to talk to us about what the mission is, and bring your spouse so they understand that we're doing Operation Deterrence, or that uh, whatever the case may be. It isn't the same, and so I don't think you get that brotherhood that you used to have, because everybody's work, 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 go home, don't talk to anyone because they're tired of work, and so we still, so Tiffany and I are old people in the unit now, which is kind of funny to think about. Like we still have all the soldiers and NCOs and everybody coming over for Halloween party or Thanksgiving or something, but you don't see a ton of that. And I think that's mentality, especially maybe being in a corps where most of your people, your lowest ranking officers usually like a captain, notable, or a major, and you got, I think they said that 58 lieutenant colonels walk around. I think they got like 40 full birds, and so for soldiers to be around that, it's not conducive, because no one's going to invite them over uh, on a regular occasion. It's always has to be a big event, has to be something important. But you got to build your team from the bottom up.
that. Amen. I've enjoyed spending some time with you tonight. It's been great catching up. You're a wonderful hero of mine, and we've captured some history here, so that you've been able to tell a story or two, and we've got it on tape. And I'm going to take it and put it out on YouTube,
Okay.
and it'll be out there for people to see or whatever. And then I'm going to send you eventually a coin and a thumb drive and stuff. I'll make sure I got your address and phone number and all that kind of good stuff. And just I'd just like to tell you thank you for spending some time with me. If you'd like to donate, formerforce.com, we go a PayPal button. You can sign up to be a monthly contributor or give us money, whatever. Just we would appreciate it. And is there anything that you close out and say as we begin to say our goodbyes?
No, no, nothing crazy. I remember using my first song, that's for sure. Um, so I appreciate you reaching out to everybody, because, like I said, there's a lot of times where we all lose connection, mainly because life's busy. It is, and if you don't force it, it's not going to happen. So sometimes you have to make time. Yeah, really, I appreciate you reaching out to me because I haven't seen you, whether it's virtually or in person. I would say probably about 14, 15 years now.
Been a long time. Been a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of remember when Cervantes was the commander, I was a first sergeant. So I
Oh
remember
yeah.
Tiffany and the struggles that we had back then and just getting some certain people to even show up.
Yeah. Well, and as a young PFC or specialist at the time, possibly sergeant towards the end, you don't realize the commander and first sergeant dynamic until you get seasoned enough to be like, oh, someone's not listening to so and so or something. You can see it when you get older. Back then, like, yep, people are busy, people are doing stuff. I gotta get down there. I gotta get to work. Like,
Right.
but no, you, Purdue, and Hockenberry were all very awesome first sergeants, and uh, I'm telling you, that unit was my best one.
Oh, that's great. Well, that's great. Well, Chris, thanks so much. CW3 Christopher Hoaglin. I love you, man. Good night, buddy.
Love you, brother.
Marshall in the middle.